Secretary of State Mike Pompeo there expressing concerns over the American Taliban. John Walker Lindh released from federal prison today after serving 17 years of a 20-year sentence. John Hanna is a senior counselor for the Foundation for Defense of Democracies and former national security advisor to Vice President Dick Cheney. Good morning to you, John. So what were the conditions for his early release? Why did he get out early?
Well, the claim is that this is consistent with the way we treat standard run-of-the-mill felons in the federal system, that people on account of good behavior get out. Apparently, the fact that you are still committed to the global jihad against the United States and against the West is not one of those criteria that we require convicted terrorists to have renounced in order to get any kind of early release.
What did he do? He wrote a letter, was it 3 or 4 years ago, commending the work of ISIS. What are the details on that, John?
I think we don't know. He was engaged in a correspondence with a local TV affiliate, and in that correspondence, he says he thinks ISIS is doing a spectacular job, that they are committed to building the global caliphate through violence and armed struggle, which is the only way to do it, he claimed. So the fact that this guy is now getting out, he has, there's been no ideological rehabilitation of this man, no renunciation for what ISIS and al-Qaeda and global terrorists are doing. The fact that he can get out early, this just screams out for a major congressional review. If they weren't busy doing other things, they ought to figure out how are we treating these convicted terrorists who are now scheduled to be released into the general population, because Lindh is not the last. He's the most notorious. But we've got a whole slew of these guys set to come out over the next several years.
On that point, John, I mean, don't overlook that point. I mean, you're calling for a major review for how we are dealing with imprisoned terrorists. And to your point, many more are coming on in the next few years. So what are the chances that that review process can take place before we see another early release like this one?
Oh, I think it has to happen immediately. We've got to figure out, is the Bureau of Prisons actually talking to our national security apparatus? Is there active monitoring of these people while they're incarcerated to figure out what their views are? Are they required to go through de-radicalization programs? And as a requirement of early release, probation, parole, are they required to at least have renounced the global jihad? Those are basic things that we ought to be doing, and it's not clear that's getting done.
Fundamental questions, too. His passport was taken away. Is he entitled to a driver's license?
That's a very good question. All of the restrictions that I've heard about, which are good in and of themselves, I haven't seen that on day one or month one he's allowed to get into a car or a truck and drive. And as we know, one thing that ISIS has called for is for committed jihadists, wherever they are, to get into their vehicles and plow into innocent pedestrians if they can. We've seen that over and over in Europe and in the United States, unfortunately. And what's going to protect us against Johnny Walker Lindh doing an action like that?
You wonder what, how normal of a life he's going to be able to live and what that looks like, and the threat that poses to all of us. We appreciate you coming on the show this morning. John Hanna.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for having me.